The Wall Street Journal reported details of Saudi Arabia's acquisition of Electronic Arts, that's EA, revealing that the Middle Eastern country will own 93.4% of EA, amounting to a near total buyout. Welcome to Inside Games Daily, the only gaming news show brave enough to have already given up on EA years ago.
Yeah, we hold on as best we can to the high marks. I mean, they did publish Split Fiction and all that, so...
Battlefield, we got Battlefield in there.
Yeah, Battlefield, Jedi Survivor. So there's some things about EA worth saving, but oh boy, is it hard to find hope in this.
It's really, really true. Thanks to a November filing, Brazil's antitrust regulator, Wall Street Journal reports a specific breakdown of Electronic Arts' pending acquisition.
Like we said, Saudi Arabia's public investment fund will own the vast majority at a 93.4% stake. The buyout firm Silver Lake will own 5.5%, and Jared Kushner's investment firm Affinity Partners will own the remaining 1.1%.
The $55 billion buyout price is composed of $36.4 billion in equity and another $20 billion in borrowed debt. That's very bad.
It is very bad. Yeah, this is a weird deal. Essentially, EA's new owners will inherit a company that is coming with $20 billion in debt, and that's bound to have some consequences. What does a business do when they're trying to pay back a debt? Cut costs and raise revenue as quickly as possible.
And Lawrence, how do businesses cut costs normally?
Yeah, kicking that human capital to the curb.
Yeah, that's right. So this is EA we're talking about. The company already has a reputation for wringing their customers dry. I don't know that they can really do that anymore, I'll be honest.
Yeah, the stronger squeeze is going to be uncomfortable. So yeah, how does a company that's already renowned for cutting corners, nickel and diming their customers, and laying off people brutally raise their revenue even further, Bruce? What's the magic ingredient here?
Oh man, we talked about it yesterday. We've been talking about it for months now, Lawrence, and it's going to be the thing that drives the world economy to the stratosphere. Yeah. It's going to be AI.
Everyone will be unemployed, and somehow this will benefit the human race. Yes. EA hasn't, EA obviously hasn't said the two are directly connected, because why would they? That's just inviting a bunch of negativity. But reports indicate there's already a really strong push inside of EA for developers to incorporate AI tools in their work, and they're not too happy about it.
An October report for Business Insider revealed internal expectations for EA employees to finish multiple AI training courses incorporated into their daily work as a, quote, this is the worst phrase, thought partner, as described by internal documents.
Who doesn't want a little buddy telling you what to think all the time? That's great. One specific employee from Respawn said that their job, which was reviewing and summarizing playtesting feedback, could be pretty efficiently performed by AI, and this was likely behind their inclusion in a round of layoffs earlier this year. You already have a specific situation here of a single developer whose job was sort of outmoded or obsoleted by AI, and you can bet that inheriting $20 billion of debt, they're going to be looking to cut every single job they can.
And somehow EA laying off loads of employees and squeezing their customers even harder is actually the best case scenario.
Yeah, because that implies they actually want to operate the business and try to extract normal profits from it. There are a few other possibilities when it comes to private equity buyouts, and they're much less humane, if you can even call it that.
Yeah, the equity firm could intentionally burn out the business, extracting maximum capital and exiting the business before the company really crashes and burns. And Lawrence and I have seen this personally. We've seen this happen in a few companies, and it is always disgusting, and there's casualties of, tens, hundreds, thousands.
Yeah, and in that situation, of course, they lie to everyone. It's always like, no, we're in it for the long haul. We plan to do this. And then, yeah, they're basically planning a 2-year window of pulling out all the cash and then selling it to the next sucker in line. That's one possible outcome. They could also borrow against the acquisition. This is kind of a weird thing where private equity firms will acquire a business as collateral to borrow against and then use that money to do what they want with and then just kind of ignore the acquisition until it sours. But they're kind of already doing that. They're doing that right now. So the PIF is already borrowing against itself to complete this acquisition. So that specific outcome seems unlikely. It's also hard for me to imagine them extracting more than $20 billion to pay off this debt and get above it. So odds are they are acquiring this business to operate it, but how they want to is a bit scary to think about.
Absolutely. There are obviously some other concerns here if you haven't already thought about Saudi Arabia. We know as United States citizens, we don't have a lot of moral high ground. That's yes. But there are some things happening in Saudi Arabia that are not happening in the United States of America that are pretty large causes for concern. The world over. So, again, I'm not saying we have a moral high ground. It's just Saudi Arabia has some issues.
Yeah. Believe me, we like to needle U.S. companies for operating inhumanely whenever we can. But this, I think most people would agree this is maybe a mark above. The most glaring and the most recent and the most well-documented is the torture and murder of Washington Post journalist Jamal Khashoggi. The CIA concluded that Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman ordered the capture and assassination of Khashoggi back in 2018. And Mohammed bin Salman is also the chairman of the Public Investment Fund, which is about to acquire EA.
That's right. And of course, there's the 9/11 thing, which was a lot of people were saying Saudi Arabia was behind 9/11. So, there's that.
Who could forget? Yes. And then there's the slavery thing. There's a couple of things here. Yeah, almost 750,000 people live under the conditions of modern slavery in Saudi Arabia, according to Walk Free's Global Slavery Index. And I didn't even know that was a thing.
And now I do. And boy, is it sad to even realize that we need that. Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund, the PIF, has been on an acquisition and investment spree lately, buying a slew of sports teams, prompting concerns that the country is engaging in sports washing, which they absolutely are. They're also engaging in comedy washing. If you notice, they brought a lot of comedians over to Saudi Arabia, and they all had glowing things to say about Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, that was another issue. We saw it firsthand. A handful of comedians actually had their invites rescinded because they made jokes about modern slavery in Saudi Arabia. So far from a free society. And yes, there's a lot of concern that not only buying a bunch of sports teams and sports events, investing in things like Beastland, and now acquiring EA that runs EAFC, one of the biggest global institutions in sports gaming. There's a lot of concern that Saudi Arabia is using all these investments to export their culture or normalize their culture. And again, as Americans, America has issues too, but at least technically slavery is illegal here for now. Who knows what the next couple of years are going to do.
This is a very interesting thing too, Lawrence. Last time we actually published a news story about how EA was getting acquired by the PIF. A few days after we published that video, started seeing Saudi Arabian bots coming in and talking about how great Saudi Arabia was and how bad the US was. Now, the reason I know that they were bots is because basically they were saying the same thing over and over and over, and it was spread out over days. And I check comments every single day. And it was one of those things where I was like, this is really weird. It is all of a sudden got hit by bots. So this is something that might happen to this episode as well. Just keep an eye out. And this sort of speaks to the larger issues, which is when we're talking about sports washing and video game washing, comedy washing, things like that, Saudi Arabia and Russia, they know that there really is no other way to defeat America other than with our money, right? They can't beat us on the military field. There's not going to be any large wars, at least we hope. So this is the way to do it. They're going to send bots. They're going to send their own money, and it's going to change a lot of things because obviously, as Americans, boy, Lawrence, we love our money here. So that's something that they are infiltrating currently, and it's just something to be aware of in society currently.
Yeah, there's money. There's also, God bless you dumbass Americans, but very susceptible to propaganda. I think I don't want to dig into it too hard. I'll try to be vague because this is going to invite a lot of angry speculation. But just the recent event of X revealing the location of some of these propaganda accounts was a weirdly eye-opening moment for some, because I guess no one considered that people would lie on the internet. But yes, there has been a very effective campaign from foreign actors to essentially turn the United States against itself. And certain administrations have drastically reduced the United States' effect and influence on the world stage because of it, by electing certain people that say the raunchiest horrible shit, and somehow, just because some dumbass Americans see some shit on Facebook that's not even real, they continue to support it. So there is another hook into the American zeitgeist, and it's, I guess, through conservative Christianity. That's the most pointed thing I'll say about that. But it's concerning to see. It's disturbing to see it work, and that's what worries me about this. It is possible, and certainly even Mohammed bin Salman has done interviews where he has kind of like waved away the sports washing aspect, saying like, if it drives up our GDP by 1%, I'll just keep doing it. So he seems to say that he's all about the money, and yet, he had a journalist abducted, tortured, and assassinated just because he pissed him off. So that's not great. And again, the United States arguably assassinated our own president at one point in time. So who knows? It's all messy out there. But this is what we're looking at. To bring it, I guess, back to EA and potentially make it so people don't yell at me on the internet. Yesterday, when we were talking about, AI and businesses, I was hoping for a very high-profile AI business crash. Where a company goes so hard in on AI that they lose the ability to even make the product they were making in the first place. This might be it. And this is potentially the best case scenario, not for Respawn Entertainment or any of the developers under the EA umbrella that I enjoy and actually like their output. Ideally, they can get out of it, or they're already working on their resumes. But if EA, at the current time, it sounds like it's a strong urging for every employee to embrace AI. If that turns into a mandate, maybe they just lose the ability to ship functioning games. And then the Public Investment Fund has acquired this massive developer that's suddenly paralyzed from head to toe. Or they ship baffling AI-ridden slop games, kind of like Black Ops 7, that the audience just has a natural distaste for. So that would be really nice. I think that would be probably the most poetic outcome I can imagine, is that Saudi Arabia gets stuck with the bill for a company that revolutionizes itself out of even operating.
Yeah, I mean, that's a real scenario that could actually happen. Just because already EA sentiment is so bad. People around, we've been talking shit about EA for years and years. The most downloaded comment on Reddit, it's about EA, right? So it's an interesting thing to think about. And again, when we're talking about the large, world scale stuff, I don't want to talk about that stuff when it comes to video games, but we have to when Saudi Arabia is, buying American companies. It's just part of it. And far be it from us to tell you how to spend your money, right? They run Live Golf. They obviously operate with WWE. There's a lot of other stuff that you may or may not take part of that is part of what Saudi Arabia is. So again, I'm not saying those you should or shouldn't do something. For me personally, there are lines that I draw, but not always. Who knows? I want you to be perfectly clear about all that stuff. It's just good to know and good to have sort of at the forefront of your mind of why all these things are happening.
Yeah, it's our job as news reporters. If you hear that Saudi Arabia is trying to acquire EA and you hear that might be a bit of a controversial deal, there's why. And then ideally we can express our opinions without making you feel too judged for whatever you might believe. Unless you believe some fucked up shit, in which case you should feel bad about that.
You know what? If you do, you tell us what it is and we'll tell you if you should feel shame or not.
Yeah. Let your online YouTubers tell you if you're believing the right thing or not. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We'd like to thank you very much for investing in this channel with your time. Any investment here produces dividends for days and days. Even those Saudi Arabian bots we're going to see eventually, those will give us a couple views here and there. Even more than that, we'll thank our own little investment fund we have in the form of a Patreon. A bunch of patrons have been investing in Inside Games for quite a few years now, so thank you very much. Spirit Bear, Hero of Nern, Nick Calderon Rook, and Null Test. We would much rather be under your thumb than Saudi Arabia's.
That's right, you call the shots on the Inside Games Patreon. And also, the dividends are paid back in the form of memes. A free meme every day for every Patreon or for every patron member, free or otherwise. So thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time on Inside Games.